People assumed the Diddy controversy was only about him, but now, unexpectedly, both Beyonce and Jay-Z are being mentioned, and not in a favorable light. The entire situation has spiraled into chaos beyond what anyone predicted. We're talking about whispers, leaked recordings, and federal probes, almost like something out of a crime thriller.
Well, the things that I experienced with him were monster-like. That stuff almost destroyed my life.
As Diddy's case began to unfold, it quickly grew beyond just his own actions. Witness statements emerged, private recordings surfaced, and confidential court files leaked, revealing a much bigger picture behind the curtain. Prosecutors are reportedly preparing to question some heavy hitters, people within Diddy's circle who witnessed too much or know too many secrets. Jay-Z and Beyonce's names are now being spoken about more loudly than ever.
I have 3 victims right now who are willing to give testimony about not only what Mr. Carter has done to them, but his wife as well. They're a nasty little couple. They do nasty things.
What do you think happened with Kim
Keeping
Ford?
people against their will. Putting people on planes while they're unconscious, just like Aaliyah got on that plane.
The day will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names. It's a long list already. And of course, I already know who some of these individuals are, but because of the nature of this case, we're gonna make damn sure that we're right before we do that. But the names that we're gonna name, assuming that our investigators confirm and corroborate what we've been told, are names that will shock.
Aaliyah's name keeps surfacing over and over, and for good reason.
What's the problem with Roc Nation and Jay-Z now? Or what's
They're an elaborate setup, Kings. I ain't simple like his wife, and neither was Aaliyah. I guess that's why he had her kids. You killed that young woman. Who the fuck else would have known better how to have someone posing as Dame Dash's personal assistant call Aaliyah so strategically and tell her she needed to rush to the hospital in Miami because Dame was on his deathbed. Dame wasn't nowhere near Miami, and he ain't had no assistant call Aaliyah. Who the fuck else would have known that other than his closest ally, his best fucking friend, the nigga that was fucking her before him?
Wow.
Prove me wrong, sue me or don't me. These motherfuckers been killing people for years. Not long after that, Diddy and Jay-Z been running around acting like they run LA.
Her tragic death is still felt deeply. She was only 22 when her plane crashed after filming a music video in the Bahamas. While many mourned and moved forward, the questions never faded. Why did the crash occur right after takeoff? Was Aaliyah drugged before boarding? Was something intentionally concealed? The allegations surrounding her passing are disturbing, and as always, they remain rumors until someone offers solid proof.
Aaliyah was sitting in a taxi as her team and the flight crew argued nearby about whether or not to take off, and she complained of having a headache. Now, reportedly, a baggage handler nearby said that someone from her entourage gave her a pill. She took the pill, and that right after she fell into a very deep sleep. So deep, in fact, that she was carried onto the airplane still asleep and may not have even been aware that she was on the airplane. Now, we should say we don't know what that pill was. It could have been aspirin. Maybe she was just very tired from a long video shoot. And the baggage handler did say that she took it willingly. But it does reveal some new information about those final moments.
After the crash, investigators determined the small plane was carrying about 700 pounds over its limit. And this is important. The center of gravity was too far back in the aircraft.
The pilot did not want to make this trip, and he reportedly argued with Aaliyah's team because he thought that it was unsafe. So he did make those calculations, and he did decide that it was unsafe. However, after protracted negotiation, they went through with that flight. Now, we did also learn some new things about this pilot. According to autopsy results, he had both alcohol and cocaine in his system.
The
pilot did.
Whoa.
He was not the authorized pilot for that plane.
Jaguar Wright later supported these claims, adding further specifics about who was allegedly involved with. What happened to Aaliyah?
That takes me to when you speak on Aaliyah. People really was honed in when you spoke on Dame Dash, Aaliyah, and you're speaking on something where you're saying, I wish that situation would be investigated further.
No, to be investigated. Period. It was never investigated. hype was never questioned. Lenny Kravitz made a statement, and it was never publicized. She was unconscious. She didn't choose to get on that plane. There were phone calls made. There are witnesses who signed NDAs. Why would you need to sign a non-disclosure agreement about a plane crash and what happened leading up to it? Please, someone answer that.
Do you feel like the night?
Why the fuck would you need to sign? A nigga don't ask about a plane crash if it was accidental.
Do you feel like...
Riddle me that. Riddle me that. Work with me here in this moment.
And I'm going to ask you.
A plane crash should be accidental.
Should be.
Why would any testimony about what happened leading up to it need to be covered under a non-disclosure agreement if there wasn't foul play? There are people who did short sales on their stocks right after that, made a lot of fucking money, including Sean Carter. Now I'm going to ask you, why would non-disclosure agreements need to be signed for an accident?
Hey.
There were over 25 non-disclosure agreements cashed out and recorded regarding the death of that beautiful girl and every other human being that died on that plane with her. What the What would you need a don't ask for that? And Diddy had Hype Williams by the balls. Belly was a money pit.
Question.
And Jay-Z got 10 free videos out of Williams. And Hype didn't work for
Recently, her uncle broke his silence, and now the world is paying attention once again.
If you could go back and change anything, what would you do differently? How would you protect Aaliyah?
Oh, God. That's a good, ugly question. Because there's so many things and so many nights that I've stayed awake wondering if I had made a plan different or if I had been there to the video shoot myself.
Aaliyah was a rising star from a very young age. She was just a child when she began performing, releasing her debut album at only 14. R. Kelly played a key role in launching her career, but things quickly turned dark. He was accused of obtaining a fake ID for her to marry her at 15 while he was 27. Her parents stepped in and stopped it, but the damage had already been done.
What is the deal with you and R. Kelly? Are you all married or not? No, I'm not married. Robert's doing his thing, I'm doing my thing. He's a great producer, great artist who I do admire, and there's nothing there.
When he did the record with him, with Jake, that's why I was that was almost like one of the things where I was just like, he's out of here, Jake. I just let it go because I couldn't believe he did a project with her, with R. Kelly, knowing that he had my girl.
What are prosecutors saying that he did to Aaliyah?
Yeah, the reason Aaliyah is part of this case is because prosecutors say she is one of the victims in a decades-long criminal enterprise led by R. Kelly, essentially for the purpose of sexually abusing underage girls. Now, during this trial, one of R. Kelly's former tour managers testified that he is the one who personally bribed a government official to get a fake ID for Aaliyah, saying that she was 18 years old when she was really 15. Why did he do that? Because R. Kelly reportedly wanted to marry her. That's what this man testified. And he said that that R. Kelly wanted to marry her because he had gotten Aaliyah pregnant, and he wanted to be able to legally authorize an abortion for her as a minor at just 15 years old, and he also wanted to protect himself from prosecution.
It's reprehensible.
It's awful.
I understood the getting married part. I didn't realize there was a potential baby. And
despite that, Aaliyah's career continued to soar. She found success and respect, and people adored her. But then came the fatal crash. At first, everyone blamed the pilot and the overloaded aircraft. But years later, someone came forward claiming Aaliyah was given a pill before the flight and had to be carried onto the plane, unable to walk by herself.
What have you uncovered about that allegation?
Yeah, the new book, Baby Girl, reveals some new details about the final moments before that tragic accident. And according to the author, Aaliyah was sitting in a taxi as her team and the flight crew argued nearby about whether or not to take off, and she complained of having a headache. Now, reportedly, a baggage handler nearby said that someone from her entourage gave her a pill. She took the pill, and that right after she fell into a very deep sleep. So deep, in fact, that she was carried onto the airplane still asleep and may not have even been aware that she was on the airplane.
Investigators eventually found the plane was about 700 pounds overweight, and the cargo's position made it dangerously unstable. The aircraft simply wasn't safe to fly. Even more alarming, the pilot reportedly realized the risks. According to a book about the crash, the pilot tried to refuse, warning Aaliyah's team about the danger, but after much argument, he relented.
The pilot must have been doing some of these calculations. Why would he risk his own life, and what do we know about him?
Yeah, according to the book, the pilot did not want to make this trip, and he reportedly argued with Aaliyah's team because he thought that it was unsafe. So he did make those calculations, and he did decide that it was unsafe. However, after protracted negotiation, they went through with that flight. Now, we did also learn some new things about this pilot. According to autopsy results, he had both alcohol and cocaine in his system.
The pilot
did.
Whoa.
He was not the authorized pilot for that plane, and he had just joined that company a few days prior to that flight. So he was very new with that company.
Another disturbing detail came from the autopsy. The pilot had alcohol and drugs in his system. He also wasn't licensed to fly that particular plane and had only just joined the company days before. These red flags have only multiplied over the years. 2 decades later, Aaliyah's family and fans still grieve. Barry Hankerson, her uncle and the founder of Blackground Records, recently gave an exclusive interview. He started the label when nobody else would take a chance on Aaliyah, who was so young at the time.
Well, what is it that made your niece, Aaliyah, such a superstar, a 1 in a million find?
Oh my God, that is so difficult to answer. She had, from a little girl, she had a way that she just did things slightly different. She would view a movie slightly different. She would dress slightly different. And it was just her peers and her friends and her family were just always in awe of whatever she did. She would just come out and start singing one of her favorite songs, My Funny Valentine. And in fact, she did that on a show called Star Search. Yep. And she just was so special. We knew how special she was until she started talking about singing. I don't think any of us knew where she was headed until she actually started singing all the time and wanting to perform. And because of my profession, you know, it just happened to be, hey, why don't we see what we can do?
About a year and a half ago, you had a stroke.
Yes.
Could have been devastating. It's pretty scary. Mm-hmm. How did that brush with death impact how you now view the passing of Aaliyah?
Oh. Well, it kind of made me feel closer to her, to be honest with you, because when I had the stroke, it was so out of the blue and so sudden. For about an hour, I didn't know where I was. I was in some dark place, but I could feel the presence of other people. Mm-hmm. And I believed the other person was my mom. And she spoke to me and told me to get out of here and go back. And I said, "Ma, is that you? I can't see you." And she said, "You're not supposed to. You see me when you come back." And then I looked up and I began to gather myself and realize something happened to me, but I didn't know what it was.
So you had a near-death experience. How did that color what you think Aaliyah went through as that plane was crashing a minute after takeoff?
Mm-hmm. Oh, God. Believe it or not, I was thinking about her music. I was thinking about, because I worked on it every day, very obsessively. So I felt like she was with my mom.
So does it make you more comfortable that Aaliyah might be there with your mom, or did you feel worse that she had to go through this as well 20 years ago?
No, I'm sure Aaliyah and my mom are in the same place. Yeah. After that experience, it's no question in my mind.
Where were you when you found out about the plane crash?
I was on my farm in Georgia, and got a call, and somebody says, "You got a long distance call. It's from the video shoot," because I knew that they were shooting a video, obviously. And I ran to the phone, and I spoke to the director, Hype Williams, and he said, "Aaliyah's gone." And I was devastated. I immediately called Minister Farrakhan and asked him, could he call God? Could he talk to God?
He confessed that he never wanted Hype Williams to direct the video, but Aaliyah's mother insisted. Barry now says he wishes he had stood his ground, believing that decision may have contributed to what followed.
So whose idea was it for her to go down to the Caribbean to shoot this?
Hype Williams. Yeah, Hype was the director. Be very honest with you, I did not want to use Hype Williams, but there was a push from management, which is her mom, to do a video with Hype. I did not really want to work with Hype Williams. I regret that. If I could do it over again, I would not have worked with him. And I don't know where the video would have been shot. Would it have been still shot there or someplace else? But it's the first time I've ever said that. But that's what was in my heart when his name came up.
So it was more your sister than R. Kelly pushing for Hype Williams?
I don't know, but that's a very good question. There was some type of rapport my sister had with Robert Kelly that began to creep into our lives. And I really don't know what that is. I really couldn't tell you what that is. That's something my sister would have to talk about. But I did feel, because Hype and R. Kelly had a relationship, because he directed a lot of Robert's videos. So the fact that you just said that is very amazing, because it was a push to use Hype more than there was a push to use anybody else. So at that time, I was after the debacle with R. Kelly. I was for not having any linkage to Robert Kelly at all through directors or whatever. So that did come up that way, and I lost that battle, and Hype became the director.
The interview took a difficult turn when Barry was asked how he responded upon learning that R. Kelly had secretly and illegally married Aaliyah.
When you learned, I'll say different, what did you do when you learned that R. Kelly had illegally married your niece Aaliyah?
Went crazy. I really went into myself. I met with the minister and really had to debrief me. And because my reaction was not a good reaction, I had no understanding of it. I had no compassion for it. It was just totally out of the realm of what I would think any young girl should have had to experience. And I made myself known, obviously, to Robert Kelly and in a conversation, and I've never spoken to him again to this day.
What did you say to him?
Things like, who do you think you are? And we trusted you. I've worked very hard to make your career happen.
You were managing him.
Yes.
You must have felt terribly betrayed.
I was betrayed, and my whole family was betrayed. We gave him not just an opportunity to learn how to perform, but we gave him a lot of love and understanding, because he had a tough life. I felt like that kind of betrayal, that you have to do something to somebody. But because of the mentorship of the minister, I totally went another direction and simply just followed along with my sister and just kept it to a very low ebb in our family and to the public, so that Aaliyah would not have to experience as much strife and pressure that could come from her family. You know, she wanted to pursue her career.
Even with all the turmoil, Aaliyah still wanted to perform and follow her dreams, and Barry didn't want anything, even someone who may have harmed her, to stop that. In 2&I21, Damon Dash spoke about Aaliyah's love life, and what he revealed caught many off guard. Aaliyah had always kept her private life quiet, but Dash, a music executive, said he dated her from 2000 up until her untimely passing. They even talked about marriage. But what really surprised people was Dash's claim that Aaliyah had a relationship with Jay-Z before him. Dash said Jay-Z tried hard to win her affection.
So this is after Jay tried to talk to Aaliyah, but she chose you over him.
You know the timeline, bro. He did the project when she died, which was even more disrespectful to me. And I'm not getting over that. So they're not fighting. It's just, yo, go over there, I go over here. That's what it is. But it doesn't mean hate on me and my money up, but apparently it did.
Just a few weeks before her fatal flight, Aaliyah was seen at the home that Jay-Z and Dash once shared. Some now speculate that Jay-Z may have wanted her gone after she didn't choose him, even though he was so interested in her.
Plugged was, because it literally still is some of the finest work that any of them, including Sean Carter, have ever done. Why would you hide that from the culture if you cared about the culture? You can't, because you don't want people to go back and see what you hid, what you lied about, and what was really going on. While you're sitting there, you had me crooning in the background, singing for the angels over lyrics that you wrote for a young woman that you took. Aaliyah.
Yes, bless her soul, bless her heart, rest in peace to the late great that never got a chance to even actually arrive. That was before her time, that we all respect and revere.
And it's disgusting that they're slumping it. Look at what the fear of man did.
Talk to me.
Because if anybody had truly been focused on God in that moment, they would have forced an investigation, and somebody would have snatched Hype Williams by the collar and just asked him some real questions until he cried.
Dash also explained that Aaliyah didn't take relationships too seriously unless she was truly interested in someone. She was open-minded, willing to give people a chance regardless of what others thought, and often put people in the friend zone. Dash also criticized Jay-Z's ties to R. Kelly and noted how Jay-Z seemed unfazed by the controversy.
I mean, I wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that. I know I ain't have nothing to do with that.
That's crazy.
Your partner. It's not. Yo, he's not my partner. Look how my partner played me. You calling him my partner? Publicly, that man did a record with that my girl and then went on a tour with him. But I had to look the other way. And because my girl said leave it alone, I left it alone.
You left it alone.
Dash felt torn. He wanted to keep his promise to Aaliyah, but his frustration was growing uncontrollably.
Jaguar Wright told us that Jay-Z was worse than Diddy. And we're going to go ahead and deep dive this Jay-Z and Diddy connection to show just how deep this might actually go. The one thing I can't stand is seeing these photos of Jay-Z and Diddy with Aaliyah. It makes me sick to my stomach. We know that Diddy and Jay-Z have both been friends with R. Kelly for years, and Jay-Z continued to make albums with R. Kelly after all the information came out with him and Aaliyah. And I'd say this is because Jay-Z was pretty comfortable with the fact that he knew he also wanted Aaliyah, and honestly, so did Diddy.
Jay-Z hasn't addressed his current relationship with Dash, nor has he offered any public statements about Diddy's ongoing legal case. As additional allegations and rumors continue to pile up, the pressure on Jay-Z to break his silence is only growing. Many observers believe that with each new accusation, it becomes increasingly likely that Jay-Z will have no choice but to respond. The situation is becoming even more unpredictable now, especially as new whispers circulate suggesting that Diddy could potentially avoid legal consequences altogether. If Diddy does manage to walk away free, the public may demand an explanation from everyone whose name has been dragged into the controversy, and Jay-Z could find himself at the center of a storm he never expected.
Sean Diddy Combs' trafficking trial will resume tomorrow as a third personal assistant is set to take the stand. Over the first couple of weeks, jury members heard explosive testimony detailing the alleged physical and emotional Combs caused. Let's bring in David Gelman, former prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney. David, welcome.
Hey, Mike, good to be here.
So in week 2 of testimony, jurors heard from a dozen witnesses as prosecutors try to prove trafficking and racketeering. What are your expectations when court resumes tomorrow?
It's going to be really interesting tomorrow when Diddy's third or fourth assistant takes a stand, and she's going to actually corroborate Kid Cudi's testimony from last week, where he said that Diddy and another associate of his bombed his Porsche years ago at his house. Now, you have to have corroboration about that because nobody can put Diddy there. And in fact, nobody even can say Diddy's the actual one who did it. But if they can say that Diddy or an associate of his did it, then you may have a racketeering charge there. Because right now, as it stands, Mike, nothing, and I mean nothing, is sticking to Diddy.
Diddy's lawyers are trying to make the case that his escapades do not amount to federal crimes. How difficult is that argument?
I think they're doing a fantastic job, honestly. Look, everybody has said, and Diddy's lawyers even said it in their opening statement, Diddy is not a good guy. There's a lot of domestic violence that occurred between him and Cassie in their relationship. However, what we've heard so far from the testimony of Cassie and the other individuals does not amount to the federal charges that he's being charged with right now. I'm not going to say anything that we heard is very good because it's all horrific. However, the state or the government in this particular instance needs to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he conspired to racketeer, to sex traffic, and to promote prostitution. So far, they're falling way behind in this. And I know there's a lot more to go in this trial because they're saying it's going to be about 8 weeks. But the government really better step on the gas because they don't have a lot more time to go.
So the play seems to be maybe admit to a state crime that avoids prison time. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. Look, again, you're hearing about all this domestic violence, but all that has nothing to do with what Diddy is charged with.
And many believe Diddy might avoid consequences by making a secret deal with authority, possibly giving up bigger names like Jay-Z in return for his own freedom. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments.